Well, as promised, here is the U-Rock guitar which I talked about in a previous video. This has been bought through urock.com or urockguitar.com. You can do a Google search, you can find it. This is I'm doing an extra video beyond what I was going to do because I believe this is probably the best solution now if you're wanting to record strumming guitars as MIDI. I've shown you plenty of other solutions, and in the workbook that you're working with, you'll find a detailed analysis of what is good and bad about all of the options that I've given you. Remember, we've had Melodyne with the polyphonic Melodyne editor. We've had the MIDI guitar app, which actually this month has just had a very, very favourable review in Sound on Sound magazine. So check out the May 2014 edition of Sound on Sound for a very good review of the MIDI guitar app. And we've also just looked at, we'll mention briefly the audio to notation converters inside Logic and Pro Tools, and also the Fishman MIDI guitar pickup. But this thing here, this new rock, this is actually pretty good. So I'm going to give you a quick demonstration of this and talk a little bit more about it afterwards. First thing I need to do though is I do need to create a track for it in Studio One. We do have sound coming through, which is great. Now I'm also going to show you how easy it is to set up this as a new MIDI controller. I'm going to go and click on Configure and click Add because I'm putting in a new MIDI controller, a new MIDI instrument. Now, even though this is not actually a keyboard, we still call it a keyboard inside Studio One, so we leave it on the new keyboard option and we just change this to whatever we want. I'm going to call it my new rock guitar and make sure that receive from is on that option there. When I plugged in the guitar, this just came up automatically. Windows and Mac should identify it straight away without needing to install any drivers. Don't need to worry about send to. We can go OK and then OK again. We should, in theory, have sound. Okay, let's give this a go. Okay, there we go. Now I've just had this guitar just for about a day now. It's only the second or third time I've touched it. So you can see there was a few things that went a little bit wrong with it, and it's because it's kind of hard to get used to playing this. Obviously it doesn't feel like a guitar. If you really want to have the good feel of a real guitar with a MIDI option, then using a Fender Stratocaster like what I had in the other videos, along with the Fishman pickup is probably the way to go. In saying that though, the strumming detection of the Fishman is nowhere near as good as this. It just feels very strange. So just like perhaps maybe a pianist who's going to play an organ and suddenly has to get used to living without the sustain pedal, it's a similar sort of thing here, in that a real guitarist going to this kind of thing here will find it very strange initially. There's all sorts of weird things. Every time you move your finger a little bit, it kind of gives you another note, and it doesn't give you any there's no forgiveness in it in terms of when you're trying to change the chords. It's just as soon as you take your fingers off the fretboard, then the sound stops. So we can see that in between all the chords are quite a few big gaps. Lots of big gaps in there. If we just look at it, we can see there's big gaps. So every time I was changing chord, there's no resonance, there's no ring on as we would expect from a normal guitar. But you can't have everything in life, can you? So let's select all this. We've got it on eighth notes and we'll quantize it all. And that should actually fix up a lot of our issues. Let's zoom in here a bit and have a listen to it. As you can see, the detection there is a lot better than what we got out of the Melodyne polyphonic editor, and it's a lot better than what the Fishman MIDI pickup gave us. To go through and fix everything is not actually going to be too hard. We can just, for instance, this first chord here, I can just select everything. If I want to drag that out to a full length with a bar like that, I can do it the same with the next one. Anytime something sounds a bit strange, such as here, because I strummed the open E string and this is a D chord, so we probably don't want that there. Get rid of that E, sorry. There we go. You can hear something else is a little bit funny with the chord in there too, wasn't there? So that E was ringing on for some reason, even though we should have been to a G over B chord. So I get rid of the bottom E, and it should sound a bit better. And if I want to get that fixed up to the full length, there we go. So you can see, even though there's a few little extra errors here, mainly from the open strings triggering, and that's to do with my right hand technique, I wasn't strumming correctly. There's a few extra notes that have gone on in them, but this is actually going to be quite easy to fix up. Much easier than any of the other options we've had in terms of strumming. In terms of just playing solo guitar, you can hear there's a few other things triggering along, and that's because every time my left hand slightly touches another fret, it was actually triggering away. You can, however, alter the sensitivity of it. For me, this is maybe then slightly too sensitive. It's picking up too many other notes, and so I can lower the sensitivity of it with the U-Rock guitar app as well. So it's good for bass lines, good for single solo melody stuff as well. Alright, every time you hear that something goes on, you hear there's some sort of funny movements there. But overall, a great option. So with all of the options I've shown you now for recording guitar, MIDI guitar, you've got a lot of choices in front of you. So please have a look at the iBook app that accompanies this video, and you'll see a breakdown there of what each solution is good for in certain situations. Some are expensive, some are cheap, but if you go through them, you should find something that works for you.